Hey, everybody, this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey is brought to you by our title sponsor, NHL Sense Arena. Look, we all want our kids to succeed in hockey, but let's face it, finding training that's both effective and enjoyable can be a real challenge, and not to mention expensive and a total drain on time, especially if you have to drive to the rink, pay a private instructor. There's so many reasons that money gets spent on this game. But that's where NHL Sense Arena steps in. It's a virtual reality training game that brings the rink into your home that takes off-ice training to a new reality. It's designed to improve hockey sense and IQ, something that's lacking majorly in the game today for both players and goalies. And you get unlimited access to over 100 drills and training plans from top coaches and players that can be played anytime, anywhere, with drills approved by USA Hockey player and goalie development directors. Look, improving mental hockey skills at home has really never been more fun, and any hockey player that uses this is going to have a blast. All right. I've used this before on my own, and it feels like you're so immersed in an arena, you sometimes forget you have a headset on. And again, it's not being on the ice, but it allows you to work on some of these skill sets like scanning, as I said before, hockey IQ, looking around the rink, making the right plays, that getting those repetitions in now as a hockey player are super important for your development. So NHL Sense Arena is giving all the listeners an exclusive offer for $50 off an annual plan when you use our code Hockey Never Stops at checkout. Again, that's Hockey Never Stops. All you got to do is go to hockey.sensearena.com. Again, that's hockey.sensearena.com. Use the code Hockey Never Stops, and you'll save $50 on your annual plan of NHL Sense Arena. Make sure to check that out and enjoy this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Hey, everybody, got another great guest today. Caroline Potolicchio is on the show today. She is a former Division I athlete, and she really talked to us about what it takes to make Division I in any level and her journey to the NHL, where she now works with the Capitals out of Washington, of course. She also is a community manager there and is heavily involved in their reading program, which might be a groaner for your kids listening, but we really did dive into the importance of reading and how it's an aspect of the game in terms of just sharpening your mind and how that's important for you. So great episode today. Make sure you listen to it. Also, in the spirit of reading, if you haven't already done so, check out our book that Christy and I wrote called When Hockey Stops. It's a book about dealing with mental adversity. We have gotten nothing but positive reviews back from this. It is not something you have to wait until your kid is dealing with something. We actually think it's better if you're not in that situation, but you can get it over at whenhockeystops.com. You can get it at hockeywraparound.com, or you can get it at, as of course, ourkidsplayhockey.com. But summer reading's coming up. We've had just such wonderful success with schools and children reading this book. So if you're looking for that little extra gift for the end of the school year, it's a great option for you. But without further ado, let's get you into the episode with Caroline Potolicchio. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. I'm Lee Elias, and I'm joined by two people who shout positive messages at the glass, Mike Bonelli and Christy Casciano-Burns. And today, we are joined by a former Division I NCAA all-academic player who earned a bachelor's in psychology from Colgate University before pursuing a master's in tourism admin with a concentration in sports management from George Washington University. That is a nice little resume there. The Bethesda, Maryland native is a coach for the Chevy Chase Hockey Club, and perhaps most exciting, is the director for fan development for the Washington Capitals, the team you might have heard of in the Metropolitan Division. My friends, please welcome to the show, Caroline Potolicchio. Caroline, welcome to Our Kids Play Hockey.
Thank you so much for having me, Lee. I'm happy to be here, so I'm excited to connect on all things hockey.
Yeah, no, we're excited to have you, and we got a great bunch of questions today. We're going to talk about your role with the Capitals. We're going to talk about hockey, but we always like to start with someone's origin story. We know that you played for the Montgomery Blue Devils as a kid. How'd you discover the game? How'd you get into the game? How did the game push your life to where you're at today?
Kind of a funny story. So I as a 3-year-old, I took lessons after school. They were free to kids 5 and under. And I would head to the rink and take lessons with my classmates after school as kind of like a after school activity. And I started with figure skates. So growing up with 4 brothers, I quickly realized that I wanted to, be in the same skates as them, and they were in hockey skates. And I made the transition from figure skating to hockey skates pretty quickly once I saw that I was different from them, wanted to be like them.
I love that. It's a common tale, the figure skating to hockey. Nothing wrong with figure skating. I never rip on figure skating, but yeah, if you have four brothers, I can totally understand. So here's a question for you. I was doing some research on you, right? It always makes guests a little freaked out, but you did some significant travel in the later years of youth hockey, right? How did you and your family manage that? And looking back, was it worth it? And please feel free to tell the audience the type of travel you were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I made the transition from boys hockey to girls hockey, there wasn't a ton of girls teams in Maryland yet. Now it's exploded, but at the time we were playing in a league in Maryland that was against the boys. It was full body contact checking as a girls team. So we played all the same rules that the boys did. But we wanted to kind of, you know, get exposure to playing girls hockey. So we went out to the Midwest League, played against all, the best teams in girls hockey at the time. We went out there once a month, played 5 games in a weekend, which I think about now and I'm like, I don't know how we did that. Five
Yeah.
full hockey
That's
games in a weekend.
crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it makes me tired thinking about it. But so we play 5 games, usually got it handed to us. They were really talented. I mean, a lot of the girls that you've seen in the Olympics were on those teams at the time. So we made it work. It was a lot of fun to travel with teammates and be given that opportunity to play at the highest level in girls hockey. So we made it work, and I had really dedicated parents that kind of bent over backwards to get me there and get me to where I was. So very grateful for that.
Yeah, and curious because a lot of moms are always on the fence about, and dads too, about making the switch to all girls hockey. I hear the debate all the time. You hear the moms say, no, you want to keep the boys as long as they can because they get tougher. But I found that when I made the switch with my daughter, it was better hockey for her. And she was able to bond more quickly because she didn't have to be outside of the locker room to get dressed and all of that. What did you find as far as making that switch, and what age would you recommend?
That's a really good question. I do think it can be different for everyone, but looking back on it, I was devastated as a 13-year-old to be cut from the boys program. It was kind of that natural shift where they, thought it was appropriate for a girl to be playing on a girls team and not playing with the boys anymore. So I think, there was some factors that played into it, but I would say that you're totally right. I think, being able to have that camaraderie and, girls for teammates and being able to bond with them a little quicker and have those locker room moments is really important. And I think, off the ice and the bonds you have with your teammates off the ice translates on the ice. So I think you're spot on there. And then I think that the game of hockey is a little different on the girl side. There's more finesse. At least, from all the hockey I've watched, I think, they move the puck differently. It requires a lot of finesse. So I think, that transition for me at 13 was probably a good age. I had, a couple years in middle school to kind of get acclimated with the girls teams. And then, that kind of prepared me for high school at the prep school level. So I think that age was appropriate. But I also was, as I was playing boys hockey, I was a dual roster kid. So I was playing with the girls teams while playing boys hockey. So I had a little bit of both worlds growing up.
Yeah, great advice. I'm glad you shared that with the parents listening, because I hear that debate all the time in the lobbies of hockey rinks all over. So yeah, it's great to weigh in on that. So tell us a little bit more about your journey. So college hockey, and then your degrees. You honed in on something that you could use hockey as part of your career.
Absolutely. I always loved the community. So, kind of being where I am today, I look back and it's crazy to me. Like I'm, living the dream and working for the Washington Capitals, my home team that I grew up cheering for, is pretty incredible. So really lucky there. But, when I went to Colgate and I majored in psychology, I had a few different career ideas. Like, one of them was, going back to boarding school or a school and coaching and teaching. I also played with the idea of kind of pursuing, an athletic director type role. So there was a few different kind of career trajectories, but I think what kickstarted it all and trying to stay in sports was my internship with the Colgate athletic department. I interned with them summer going into my senior year, and I trained on campus ahead of my senior season. So, kind of being exposed to college sports and the marketing world really kickstarted my passion for trying to pursue a career in sports, I would say.
Yeah. Colgate's in my neck of the woods. Great college.
Stop
I
bragging,
loved it.
Christy.
It's
We got
beautiful
good
up
colleges down here in Pennsylvania too. Okay, it's nothing.
there.
Caroline, I'm writing down a ton of questions here. One thing I just want to reiterate, it's so important, as you just kind of shared with us, that if you love the game, you can stay involved with the game beyond playing. And again, I've always said this: you play as long as you can. Don't.
Mhm.
This isn't like someone saying don't play. Play as long as you possibly can. I still play, but if you want to have a life in the game, you're not limited to just playing the game. There's so many different roles, and you named a few there, from athletic director to community to everything. And community management is a lot of fun. I have to ask this now that you brought it up, because you mentioned the Capitals. Where were you in 2018? How was that Stanley Cup run for you as a Caps fan? There's only the one, and again, maybe for our younger audience, they need to understand this. The Caps were plagued. They were a Maple Leaf level type situation where they just couldn't win, right? They couldn't get past the second round. Then you overcame the Penguins and you won against the Vegas Knights. Tell me, as the fan, what was that like for you?
It was incredible. I mean, when just their whole run was unbelievable. We watched every game, as my group of friends watched every game together. And then, the night they won, I was right in Chinatown, right next to Capital One Arena. And, even though they were away, it felt like they were home. It
Right.
was just, I mean, it's hard to describe the energy that city brought. But yeah, we were at a local restaurant bar. And when they won, we flooded the streets right in front of Capital One Arena. I'm sure you've seen pictures, but just absolutely insane. And yeah, I would say the feeling of like getting past the first round was huge. Like, there's something special about like the fact that we finally had kind of moved on past what we had done in the past for so long. There's a little bit of a curse on us, I would say, for a while, but broke that. And yeah, I just was surrounded by friends that had followed the Caps for years. My fiance, he's a hockey player, so he's a huge Caps fan. So, being together in that moment was really cool. And being, a fan in that moment was really cool.
Right.
And I know many of my colleagues enjoyed being here, working the moment and being a part of it as like a part of the organization. But I wouldn't, I hope to that we can run it back while I'm here and while I'm working here, but I wouldn't trade it for the world that that I was able to experience as a fan.
Well, I'll say two things. To those of you listening to the show, she has a huge smile on her face. I asked this question because I'm a Flyers fan and I was not around in 74 and 75. So I have no idea what it feels like to win a Stanley Cup championship. So I'm always very curious about what that must be like. And again, the Capitals at this point in time chasing another massive record with Ovechkin, obviously, which is going to be a franchise changer in a lot of different ways. So the one question I wanted to go back to, we've discussed on the show many times, especially Mike and I, just the transition to women's hockey, to girls hockey. And, this question popped in my mind because obviously girls transition to girls hockey, boys don't. So with that said, there's perspective there that Mike and I are not going to understand. So what is the difference from your point of view? What are the differences when you switch to girls hockey that maybe the boys don't notice or don't see?
Great point. So I would say I feel like my first thing that I'm going to get off, my chest is that women's hockey is really physical. I mean, at the collegiate level, you are seeing a lot of body contact, and I think there is, that obvious rule that like you can't checking is not allowed, but there is body contact and checking. I mean, you can't do open ice hits. You'll get a penalty, but the physicality of women's hockey is there. And it will be going forward. And then I think one difference is just the way we move the puck. The finesse on the ice and the way girls and women pass the puck and move the puck up the ice is totally different. And I think those are the two big differences, I think, between boys and girls and women and men's hockey.
Yeah. And I can attest to that. My daughter just finished playing college hockey. It's physical. And everybody thinks it's not. You're sadly mistaken. Because they protect their goalie just like the guys do, and they're body checking, and it can get extremely physical, Yeah.
I'd say
Yeah.
anyone who's watched any women's college hockey, world championship hockey, or the Olympics sees it because it's obvious, right? It's obvious once you start watching it.
And
Yeah,
it's fast too. It's a fast game. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I could imagine those back in college, playing Shannon in the corner, from a defense perspective, she's not a stick on puck first person, so I think so I think it's, when you watch the women's game and just see how physical it is when you actually are on the bench, it's more similar to, and we use this in the youth hockey world, it's more similar to an actual youth hockey game than an NHL game. I mean, because it isn't a full out, body contact at center ice blowing somebody up. It really is the body position and boxing out and, establishing your lane and protecting the puck. So it really does. I mean, the women's game, I think, when you watch it with your kids, represents the game of hockey much closer than an NHL game does, at the youth level. So I think it's a great, if you're a parent out there and you're looking for, things that are reality. I mean, Alex Ovechkin isn't, he's not reality, right? Not a normal human being. He's a freak of nature. So, you're not going to get a player like that at any level, let alone men's and women's. So I think for us at the youth level, watching the women's college game and even the pro game represents more of what, like, the pieces of hockey that we want to teach are right there front and center for us to see. So but I would agree. It's not something where you're like, well, there's no, you're not allowed to touch anybody out there. And I think that's definitely a misconception.
That is a misconception. And speaking of Alex Ovechkin, I just finished watching that documentary on him. He's not a human being. I mean, he's a machine. Wow.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Well, both his parents
He
were
is,
Olympians. I mean,
Right. Well,
Caroline, do you have much contact with him, and what can you tell us? What is he like off the ice?
All the Washington Capitals players are great off the ice. I do work directly with them on all community initiatives. So, I get to connect with them on, what they're passionate about in the community and work with them directly on programming. So he's a joy to be around. He's a great guy. So, just as much of a great guy off the ice as he is on the ice.
We've actually interviewed Jen O'Brien on this podcast a number of times, and Jen's a huge fan of him and what you guys do as a community from the American Special Hockey Association standpoint. So I know, obviously your involvement, but the fact that these players, don't need to be prodded and coaxed to go do these kind of events is really a tribute to, really what today's NHL player really is and understands about, connecting with the community.
100%. Yeah. I would say hockey players are, a different breed when it comes to community. They want to be out in the community and working, with the community and, with our fans. So I feel really lucky to kind of be in the sport, working directly with them on these community initiatives. And yeah, Ovechkin does a lot of work with Asha. He's a big supporter of theirs. So that's been really cool to, see, as I kind of get up to speed with all the community initiatives that the Caps have been doing over the years.
And jumping off that, your fan development. What does that mean, and how do you do it, and is it changing for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I think the biggest thing about hockey is that it's the best live sport to watch, in my personal opinion. I might be a little biased, but just seeing a game in person is a totally different experience than watching it on TV. And I think, introducing the sport to new fans is the biggest part of my role. So I work on the different NHL platforms that the NHL oversees. All the clubs kind of participate in different platforms, and I oversee all those for the Capitals. And then, obviously we have our Caps in School program, so kind of introducing kids to the Caps in a curriculum-based level with our reading program. So just kind of introducing them to the game and what it's all about, and trying to motivate them to incorporate reading in their daily lives through prizing and engagement from the Caps side. So yeah, everything is evolving all the time when it comes to creating new fans and growing the game. So keeping up to speed with what people want to see, or what kind of platforms they're engaging with is really important as we kind of develop that new generation of fans.
Caroline, you get me thinking here. I'm just thinking about location here, right? So, we got to remember here where the Capitals are located. You're not too far from Philadelphia up north, and you're in that DMV area, all the way down to Virginia. The next team really is Raleigh, right? It's the Carolina Hurricanes. So, how do you manage that landscape? Because DC is very small as a city itself, right? As a district. So you have to attack Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, anywhere else, or is it a far-reaching environment? What's your radius, right? Is basically what I'm saying.
No,
yeah,
that's a good question. My youth hockey development team is really in tune with this, so they work at introducing the game like all across DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I know for a lot of things we have a 75-mile radius, so it's definitely we're not just focused on
DC Metro,
I guess,
right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think our youth hockey team does a really good job at introducing the game across all different types of school districts. So one of the programs that they have is the hockey school program, and they bring that program into school systems and introduce hockey at the within the PE curriculum. And that has actually over 750,000 students have been introduced to the game of hockey through that program.
Wow.
So I credit the youth hockey team and everything they're doing to kind of make sure that we are introducing hockey beyond that metro region.
Yeah, it's an interesting area because technically the Capitals are the first Southern team, if you want to look at the Mason-Dixon line basis of it. And the further you go down south, it's amazing to watch how youth hockey kind of, I guess, spreads out in the sense of not in a good way, right? I mean, the farther south you go, there's not a lot of high school teams. In some places, there are no high school hockey. So part of your role is not just developing the Capitals, right? It's developing the game in general. And again, if you're in a northern city, that's probably not a challenge, right? If you're in Minnesota, it's definitely not a challenge. So I just wanted to kind of follow up on that of, what are the challenges you're seeing? Is it access? Is it information? Is it, do people know the Capitals once you get into kind of central Virginia? I mean, I know they know them, but do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. I think the NHL and all the organizations are doing a really good job trying to break down the barriers of access. So obviously hockey's an expensive sport. And we all know that equipment's expensive, ice time's expensive. So I think, one of the programs that our youth hockey team leads is the Learn to Play program. And,
Mhm.
you see that across the NHL organizations, but that is really helping kind of break down that barrier of cost, because it's a really nominal fee for getting equipment issued to you and getting those 8 to 10 weeks of sessions that introduce you to the game of hockey, and you learn how to play. So I think, yeah, you nailed it. I think access, trying to break down those barriers of costs. I think rink access also, although I think the game has grown a lot in our area. They call it the Ovechkin effect. So I think that we're growing the sport, and seeing an increase in participation for both boys and girls, especially girls. Girls has grown a lot in our area. But yeah, I think access is the biggest barrier for sure.
So I wanted to ask this too. You have to be very driven to work for an NHL franchise, man or woman, right? There's a lot of people that apply for these jobs, typically in the thousands. You landed one. You were an NCAA Division I athlete. So look, there's something in you that is a driving factor. So I want to talk to the young girls and boys listening to the show right now from your perspective. You were a Division I NCAA athlete. We just shared on our Facebook group recently the odds of making it to NCAA hockey out of high school, all 3 divisions. And the odds are not in your favor, ever. It doesn't mean you shouldn't chase your dream. It doesn't mean you shouldn't drive to achieve your dream. But it does mean you need to put the work in to make it happen. Mm-hmm. What's different about you, or what is the driving factor in you that made that decision? Is I'm going to be a Division I athlete. I'm going to work in this game. No one's going to tell me I can't do it. And I'm not just focused on woman, male here. It's you as a person. Speak to our audience a little bit about what that takes.
Definitely. I would say that, your mental performance is just as important as the training you're doing on and off the ice, like the physical performance. I read a book in high school that I think kind of changed everything for me. It was called Mind Gym. And it was all about, kind of having that positive outlook, and goal setting. And I think that just changed the landscape for me. I actually never thought I would ever play Division I hockey. So going away to Choate, I was pursuing Division III. I was, I had my eyes focused on the NESCACs and going D3, and potentially actually playing 3 sports in college. So
wow.
I loved all 3 sports I played. So
what were the other 2 real quick?
Lacrosse and field hockey.
Okay,
I knew it. I was
so
going to guess
all forms of hockey. Got it. No, just kidding.
You've got a stick in your hand.
Right.
Exactly. Hand-eye coordination.
Yes.
So yeah, so I really thought I was gonna kind of pursue more than one sport in college, and most people, can't. There are some exceptions. My brother, he played football and baseball and at the D1 level, but most people can't do that at the D1 level. It's a year-round commitment to play a sport at D1. So I would say that, just kind of changing that, my narrative mentally, and being like focusing on the positives, being present in the moment, and doing everything you can to kind of work on yourself and, be the best version of yourself, in the moment is really important. And I got really into goal setting. I would say in high school, I would, make 5 goals and put them on a piece of paper and read them before games, and before big milestones. And I think that kind of helped get me to where I am today, for sure.
I'm a big advocate of that too. Writing down your goals, setting them, achieving them, visualizing it. Do you still play, Caroline?
I do.
All right.
I play, just like recreationally. I play in a guys league and a men's league, just for fun. Chevy Chase Club, which, the mites that I coach there, I get the chance to play on their outdoor rink, in the winter. So that's a lot of fun. And then I also, I typically play in a league called the Mullet League, which is a lot of fun.
I know
Sounds
that.
a little
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting married at the end of August, so
Oh, congratulations.
Fantastic.
So I told myself that I'm going to take this spring off from that league just to make sure I'm ready to go for the wedding day. So
Let's be honest. We all know you're an adult league all-star. You might not say it, but I'm going to say it. I wanted to say this, Caroline. Look, we've had a lot of professionals on this show, including yourself, professional athletes, professional people. The same three things keep coming back for all the parents listening to this show. I want you to know this is something you can learn, you can teach your kids, you can focus on. Caroline, they all say this, and you just said it. Be present. Focus on what you control. Write out your goals. Right? We're all, as parents, very quick to tell our kids how to play the game, even though a lot of us don't play. You can be quick to tell your kids, let's learn how to be present. Let's focus on what we control. Let's learn how to write goals. You can have an 8-year-old write goals out. The goals might be play Fortnite or Zelda or whatever, but you can practice these things. I'm going to say it's a reoccurring theme, right? Mike, Christy, right? It's like every professional person we have on their show says these things. And these are people that have accomplished the goal of being involved in sports. I'd just be remiss if I didn't. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think the frustrating piece from a development standpoint is, I'm sure you learned a lot of that stuff going to Choate, and obviously, right in your youth hockey world, there must have been some influences there that led you down that path. And I think maybe, and I'm assuming a lot of it was because of the people that you were associating yourself with as well, right? That the other athletes, when you go to a Choate or a prep school environment, you're not going, to be in the locker room with underachievers. Right. So the ability now, and there's a lot of pressure that comes along with that, I'm sure, as well. Right. That okay, because everybody in the room is, well, not everybody, but the people that are going to advance are writing their goals, are being mindful, are in the moment, or, they're all competing to be the most stable athletes they can so that they can work on their training and the on ice development. But I think, maybe you could speak to that a little bit, when you made that jump from, recreational hockey and obviously it's competitive hockey, but now going into an environment of girls and women from all over the country, really all over the world. And then seeing, like, how did that motivate you being in that locker room to, cause you learn these things, right? So being in that locker room, and maybe how do you influence some of the athletes that were in that room with you?
Right. How do you get over any intimidation you might have experienced too?
Yeah, because now you're in a room. You're not
Right.
in Maryland anymore, right? You're in a place where every single girl that's in that locker room has an expectation and a goal to get somewhere. And I'm assuming that every single person on your prep school team went off to play Division I college hockey. So what is it that you feel you learned and some of the things you can present to some of the youth hockey players and really parents, because they're listening to this as well and saying, well, if I just get to the right school, the all that on ice and all that training is going to help my kid. But what are the other aspects that they have to be aware of?
Absolutely. I think, you talked about intimidation and kind of, once you get to prep school or, a college team, like, you aren't the best person in the room anymore. And you kind of have to let go of that. These people, these girls and women are like the best of the best coming in from different parts of the world. And, I quickly realized that at the collegiate level, that, I wasn't, I was surrounded by talent and excellence. And, those women, they pushed me to kind of be the better version of myself. So I think you get over the intimidation because you realize that you are surrounded by, excellent hockey players and on and off the ice, and you learn so much from them. So I think the biggest thing to take away is when you go into a new team, you want to position yourself to learn from your teammates rather than like be intimidated or compete with them. You really want to learn with them, and they're going to help you get better at the end of the day. So I think just like having that team mentality is really important as you kind of try to get to the next level. You want to be a teammate first.
What a great answer.
Awesome.
And Caroline, I'll say this too. We've talked about this on the show that the great players, not good players, great players make the players around them better. Right. And they also, and this is the other kind of misconception, they will also push those players to be better, sometimes to an annoying or intimidating level, but they will push you to be the best version of yourself. To me, as a coach, that is the difference between a great player and a good player. A good player will just play, right? And I think also a great person and a great player that you are understood that you were in that environment. I think that's incredibly important. I think that's the other side of it. It's one challenge to be unbelievably talented and to teach or to share. And I'm not saying this to you, but this is the other side of it. It's also to be not the most talented person in the room and to be open to being taught and learning, right? Because a lot of people in that, they get intimidated, they close off. I can't listen to that person. They're my competition. So I think a learning environment, which is not always sunshine and rainbows, anytime you're creating something new, it's volcanic, right? There's tectonic shifts to operate in that environment as both an individual and as a team. When that's happening and there's a culture of accountability, man, magic can happen. I mean, it can really happen. And, I think about, especially in women's hockey, I think about Team USA and Team Canada. You want to talk about tectonic shifts in hockey, right? Watching those two go at it or the challenges that they overcome. It's intense and it's amazing. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is great. Also, we got to talk about the little free library. That's your baby. Let's talk about
It
that.
is. Yes, it is. Yeah, no, this was a really cool project. As a part of my role, and overseeing community relations, I oversee the Capson School program. So it went on a little bit of a hiatus during COVID, just given the nature of COVID and kids being remote. But we relaunched it this past year, and we relaunched the reading program in schools. And as a part of that, we launched a little free library in our practice facility at MedStar Capitals Iceplex. And it was a lot of fun. I purchased a library, and we had it painted by a local artist, Taylor Campa Olson. She absolutely rocked it. It's very cool. If you haven't seen pictures, you can definitely look it up. And we launched it with different hockey titles in the library. So I worked with the players to find out what their favorite book was, whether that would be one that they read to their kids or one that just has resonated with them over the years. And then I also featured titles from some of our alumni and some of the women's hockey players that have written books. So it was a really fun launch and got a lot of pickup. I'm really, proud of what we were able to do and, launching that here at our home practice facility.
And you got a lot of books, right? How many books did you collect?
I would probably say for the launch, we had maybe 50 to 75 books that we had. And I couldn't fit them all in the library. So,
right.
I kind of put them out in waves, but the community has loved it. They're keeping that library full. And every time I'm down there, there's books in there. So I'm really excited that it was well received by the community and that people are using it.
Yeah, and what I found is that one way to get kids passionate about reading is to tap into their passions. And we've gotten letters from moms whose kids really weren't into reading. And then since we've written hockey themed books, they've written thank you letters because, oh, my son really didn't care to read. My daughter really wasn't all that thrilled about reading, but she loves hockey. He loves hockey. They pick up a hockey book and all of a sudden that little fire inside gets ignited and it gets them just turned on to reading. And then so you help develop readers, which is such a beautiful thing. Yeah,
I loved reading as a kid. I always loved those book fairs where you could get new titles. I always had a blast at those. So I think just finding a way to meet with kids where they are and kind of ignite that passion. And
exactly.
Our reading program does that. We, at the start of the school year, we send them bookmarks. Each classroom that signs up gets bookmarks for their students, and their capitals themed, and we do monthly reading minutes competitions where the teacher's tracking how many minutes their classroom has read, and if they win that month, they get additional prizing. So I think
Wow.
the important thing for us is to motivate kids to keep reading and incorporate that into their daily lives, because it really does make a difference, and trying to find that excitement and passion in the classroom. I've heard from teachers that it is getting them more excited about reading. So
Okay, so
gotta
everybody
encourage that again.
listening, take a page from Caroline's book, literally, and start a program like that in your community.
We should
Yes.
also mention that, at least as of recording this, the Capitals are the only team in the NHL who have done this. I think that's
Yeah.
a massive point we need to say here, because there's 31 other franchises, we're looking at
Yeah.
you, that really probably should be doing this, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, we were the first NHL team to launch a little free library. So that's something we're really proud of, and I hope other organizations follow suit, because I do think it is a really cool way to bring together community around reading and sport.
We should also mention, Christy, that just in case you're listening, all of Christy's Puck Hog books and When Hockey Stops are available in this library and on ourkidsplayhockey.com. Should you be interested in purchasing those? No, actually, I remember when
Donated, right?
they were donated
There's
100%.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they went
I-
quickly. I mean,
Yay.
someone picked them up, so
We'll send you
that's
some
awesome.
more.
Yeah.
We will send you some more. for
Caroline,
sure.
Christy brings us, all of us bring opportunities to the show, but I think giddy would be the word to say, describe her when she mentioned this. Like, they're going to take our books to the free library of the Capitol.
I love this so much.
Right. Right. So that was a awesome part of this. But yeah, no, look, I can remember in college, when I was a college hockey player, one of the activities we had to do was to go to little schools, elementary schools, inner city, in the rural areas, to read to kids as college hockey players. And a few things I learned there. One was that to these kids, we could have been NHL players. They were excited we were
Yeah,
there.
you guys are like rock
Yeah.
stars.
Right. And until you make that connection point as a young person, whatever, 18 to 22, 23, that was a little bit life-changing. But Christy, I want to go back to what you said too, for the parents listening whose kids don't like to read. You just got to find the right book.
Yeah.
My mother, if she was here, she would say, I hated to read. I really hated to read. Then I found the right book, and man, I fell in love with reading.
Right.
So this is a service that goes well beyond hockey. But you know what? It's tough as a kid, if you're a hockey player, to turn down a hockey book, especially if the subject matter matters. So,
Mike's gonna jump in. What were you
go
saying,
ahead.
Mike?
No, I think it's you're absolutely you're on point though, to talk about, when you have children who like to read or don't like to read, like when you find a subject that they like. I know, like my son's a big, obviously he likes hockey, and I think he likes coming home with hockey books. And I'm actually shocked at how many hockey books there are out there, to be honest with you. I don't remember how many. I don't remember all these hockey books that were out there.
You had both of them, Mike.
Yeah, but there's so many, like, history of the NHL and history of jerseys, history of this and that, and that. But I think I think you're absolutely right. If you want, I know, like, it was funny going back years and years. I took Christy's book, and that was our gift to all our 8 and under kids. Instead of little trophies and medals at the end of the year, they got a book, and and she signed them all. And the kid, and I still, to this day, this is what, Christy, I don't even know how many years, maybe 8 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, I still get I still, when I run into people, like, oh, you still have that book? It's now, and now it's going to like our grandkids
awesome.
or something. Like, it's really amazing. But how powerful that is to sit down and read, whether, if it's about hockey, great, but just the fact that you're reading and connecting with your kids, if it's a subject that you like and you're both interested in it, that's even better. So it's really, really great. And I know the NHL clubs that I'm involved in up here, they'll get a note asking where their library is by the end of today.
I can see, Mike. Well, the Capitals are doing it.
I said, I don't know, guys, what's going on here? I mean, this is making us look bad up here.
Caroline,
So what's next on the agenda, Caroline? Do you have other plans as you're thinking about fan development? Do you have something else that you're working on?
That's a great question. Well, in terms of Caps in School, we, obviously want to build on the foundation and find ways to keep kids motivated. So we're, working on that programming this summer, to kind of, get bigger and better, and incorporate new ideas into the classroom. We definitely are always, working to evolve our programming. One initiative that I'm focused on is our Hispanic Heritage Outreach.
Right.
So that's one initiative that I'll be focused on this summer as we kind of think through different programming, and how to introduce the sport to the Hispanic community in the
That's
DMV
wonderful.
area. Mm-hmm.
Before I close, Mike, Christy, do you have any other questions you wanted to ask?
I just had one question about your parents' role as you developed, and then you obviously showed an interest beyond, house level when you were getting really serious about hockey. Where were the parents? Were they driving you? Were you telling them? I mean, because we see some parents who are just, they got their fingers in every aspect of the kids' hockey development now. And there needs to be a balance. And it has to come from the kid. You got to have that drive. So what advice would you give to parents, who see that glimmer of talent in their kids and say, oh, I need to develop this talent? What would you say to the parents who feel, like I got to control this because they're going to play high level Division I college hockey?
I would say, I mean, I'm just so grateful. Shout out to my parents. I'm really grateful for all the times they drove me to the rinks. The rinks weren't close, rush hour. There was a lot of time spent in the car. There was a lot of time spent on planes. So really grateful for all the hockey parents that kind of go above and beyond to make their kids' dreams come true. I would say that I think being a sounding board and listening to your kids is the biggest thing that I probably took away from, my childhood through college. My parents were always there to listen, whether it was me, being kind of bummed about a game I had and being on the ice for like the OT loss. I just remember being on the ice for an OT loss in New England championships at Choate. And, my parents were there to listen. And I think kind of, giving your ears to your kids and letting, and like being that sounding board, I think helps them figure it out. I feel like just talking things through with my parents helps me figure out, what I wanted to do rather than them telling me. So I think that's the biggest thing I would say is just listening and kind of being that outlet for, good days and bad days.
Great advice.
Absolutely. I mean, look.
Do you hear that, parents?
Yeah, listen, right? Well, that was the key. Look, listening's hard. It's a skill.
Yeah.
It's a skill. As someone who talks for a living, I have to bite my lips every once in a while. Like, tell my Lee, shut up and just listen, especially when my kids are talking. Right? Mike, anything else from you before we close it out?
No, all good advice. And I think, congratulations on your continued success in your career. And I think it's, the Caps, obviously I'm sure there's a lot of turmoil and change down there every time seasons end a little early, but it sounds like you're on track to get going in September again and start connecting with the community. So congratulations again and great job.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Caroline. Well, listen, this has been a lot of great advice and a great episode as always. We appreciate you being on, Caroline. And for Christy Cascio Burns and Mike Benelli, I'm Lee Elias. This has been another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. You can get them all wherever you listen to your podcasts, or check out ourkidsplayhockey.com. There are all the episodes, a link to our Facebook page, which is aptly called Our Kids Play Hockey, if you want to join in the conversation. Caroline Potolicchio, I got that name down. Thanks so much for being here today. We'll see you next time on Our Kids Play Hockey. Have a great week, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.